Hey, what's up everybody? I'm HoopsandHipHop, hope you're having a fantastic day. So, little background for you guys before we get started here. Later this week, in just 2 days in fact, it is Pokemon Day, which is going to be coinciding with the reveal of the brand new mythical Pokemon that we've known about for a while now. So with this video right here on Tuesday, kind of on the heels of all of that hubbub on Thursday, I kind of wanted to do a more laid-back, casual sort of video that we could kind of just have fun with while we wait to really get into the nitty-gritty with Thursday's announcements. So with that being said, I decided I wanted to go ahead and look at the question, the age-old question of which Pokemon generation has the best Pokemon. I thought it would be fun to take this completely opinionated question and kind of sort of try to boil it down to a science, if you will, and come up with a more objective method of answering this question than simply just stating which one I think is the best. Ultimately, at the end of the day though, it is impossible to be 100% objective about this, but I thought it would be fun at the same time if we put this question and kind of tried to format it into a game, if you will. So with that being said, here's how it's gonna go down. I'm going to start off by looking at all of the different groups of Pokemon that most, if not all, generations share. Things like the starter Pokemon, the starting bug, bird, and rodents of every region, the Pikachu clones, the fossils, basically those types of Pokemon that most every generation, if not every single one of them, can have some representation for. From there is where opinion is going to leak a little bit into this equation though, because what I am going to do is with each category rank the top 3 best Pokemon, and then based on the rankings of those Pokemon, they will earn points for their respective region. So for example, if I were to say the Kanto starters were the best starters, that would give 3 points to Generation 1 for being in first place in that category. And then from there, 2 points would go to second place and 1 point would go to third. I will do the same thing for every category, and then at the end of it all, I will tally up all of the points, and then the generation with the most points will be crowned the winner as having the best Pokemon. And I will also give a second and third ranking at that point as well. This is all just for fun at the end of the day, and there are still opinions factoring into all of this, so keep that in mind, but those are pretty much the rules, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so it only makes sense to start with the starter Pokemon, and coming in at the number 3 spot for the starters are the Hoenn starters. I really love the Hoenn starters because there's not really a bad one amongst them. The first forms of all of them are fantastic, the final forms of all of them are fantastic as well, and the middle forms are all pretty good even for being middle forms. Overall though, I do feel like there's betters out there. Coming in at number 2, we have the Johto starters, and the only thing that I think holds the Johto starters back from being one of the best and taking that number 1 spot is the fact that with their mono typings, I feel they are a little bit plain. Overall though, with their designs and everything else, I think they are absolutely phenomenal from first stage to final stage. And coming in at the number 1 spot, the generation that at least I feel like has the best starters would be Sinnoh. From top to bottom, the Sinnoh starters are just absolutely amazing, everything from their type combinations to their design origins and inspirations to how well they blend all of those inspirations together. I just think every single one of the Sinnoh starters in terms of design and in terms of all of the different stages are absolutely phenomenal and are the best bunch of starters that we have so far. Moving on to the starting bugs, at the number 3 position we have the Vikavolt family. Now Vikavolt is easily one of the coolest bug types of all time, and the rest of its family is no pushover either, so I definitely feel like it earned this number 3 spot. However, I will admit that the rest of the rankings in terms of the starting bugs are a little bit biased in terms of my own preference. And that's because at the number 2 spot we have the Scatterbug family. Now, I know a lot of people are sort of indifferent to this family of Pokemon, but personally, I really do like them a lot, and even though I know this is very much my own opinion versus objective fact, I definitely feel like they deserve the second slot here. And taking the top spot for the starting bugs, we have the Ladybug and Spinarak family. legendaries. Now, I know this one is definitely very opinionated because I know there are a lot of people out there that do not like Lady Anne for one reason or another. However, in my opinion, this has got to be easily the best bug type out there, and Spinarak and Ariados as well are really great too, so they take the top spot for me in these rankings. Taking a look at the starting birds now, at the number 3 spot we have Pidgeot. Now overall, the starting birds were a pretty hard bunch to pick from in terms of the top 3 because there are a lot of really great ones, but overall, I feel like Pidgeot is just a really classic Pokemon even when looking outside of the starting birds, and overall I just think it's a really good Pokemon with a really good design, so yeah, it's the number 3 pick. In at number 2, we have Corviknight, and this is actually where I took the public's opinion a little more seriously than my own, because personally I feel like Corviknight is kinda just okay. However, I do know that it is a very good Pokemon overall, and I know it's a fan favorite in terms of the starting birds for many people out there. So because of those strong opinions, I had to give Corviknight the number 2 spot. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Talonflame. Now personally, Talonflame is my favorite starting bird, but I think there are a plethora of reasons as to why it deserves this spot. Number 1, it was the very first starting bird that had a secondary type aside from flying that was not normal, being fire flying type. And adding that kind of pizzazz, if you will, to a starting bird absolutely broke new ground and really set a new standard for what a starting bird can become. Number 2, it's just got a fantastic design in general, and number 3, before it got nerfed in Generation 7, it was a very highly competitive Pokemon that was used on a lot of competitive teams. So for all of those reasons, I definitely feel like Talonflame deserves this number 1 spot. Getting into the rodents, at the number 3 spot we have surprisingly Patrat and Watchog. Now historically I haven't really liked these guys that much, but I have come to appreciate recently how they blend the crossing guard vibe into their designs as rodent Pokemon. That is something that a lot of other starting rodents don't do, just for the simple fact that they're basic Pokemon that pretty much only have one dimension to their designs, so for that reason I decided to give Patrat and Watchog the number 3 position here. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Zigzagoon and Linoone, and I just feel like Zigzagoon and Linoone are really solid Pokemon, even if they are some of the more basic Pokemon you will ever see. They just have really solid designs overall, and amongst the starting rodents, even though they're not technically a rodent themselves, they are easily one of the best. Taking the top spot in this category, we have Sentret and Furret, and I really don't think a lot of people are going to argue with me on this one. Number 1, because Furret is basically a fan favorite at this point, and number 2, between the two of these Pokemon, they just provide a sense of adorableness and really just a really enjoyable set of designs compared to all of the other starting rodents who aren't necessarily known for being the cutest or the best designed Pokemon out there. So for that reason, Sentret and Furret easily take the top spot in this category. Next up, we have the Pikachu clones, and at the number 3 pick, which might seem kind of odd at first glance, is none other than Pikachu itself. Now actually, truth be told, this was a pretty hard category to pick a top 3 from because there are a lot of really great Pikachu clones. However, I felt like Pikachu had to be in here somewhere just for the simple fact that it is the Pokemon that these other Pikachu clones are being made clones of. So it kind of gets one of the top 3 positions just by default. However, with that said, I do feel like there are Pokemon in the Pikachu clone category that, at least in my opinion, are better Pokemon than Pikachu, and coming in at the number 2 spot would be Togedemaru. Now, what can't you like about Togedemaru? It's a hedgehog Pokemon, it's literally spherical, and it's impossible to hate a round Pokemon, I promise you, and thirdly, it's got a really cool electric steel typing that not a lot of other Pikachu clones can claim in terms of having a really cool type combination. So for those reasons, Togedemaru takes the number 2 spot here for Generation 7. And at the number 1 spot in the Pikachu clone category, we have Morpeko. Now, once again, I do feel like this is going to be a slightly more opinionated pick because I know some people are kind of indifferent or don't like Morpeko as much, but in my opinion, Morpeko is far and away the best Pikachu clone. Number 1, it has the amazing Electric Dark typing, which we have all wanted for a while. It's also got 2 forms as well as a signature ability and a signature move, and it literally has pockets that it uses to store its food in. I really don't see what is not to absolutely love about this Pokemon, which is why it gets the number 1 spot here for Generation 8. Next up, we have a group of Pokemon that kind of goes under the radar in terms of being a part of most generations, and that would be the feminine grass line. First up at the number 3 spot, we have the newest member of this family, and that would be Eldegoss. Eldegoss is a really good and really solid design overall, and its pre-evolution is really awesome as well, so I feel like it's definitely deserving of this number 3 ranking. At the number 2 pick, we have Florges, and I just really think that Florges is an awesome Pokemon. The rest of its line is really good too, and it has the distinction of having multiple different forms based on the colors of its flowers, which is a really nice touch as well. However, I do definitely feel like in this situation that Roserade has to take the top spot. I know it is a little bit weird because Roserade, part of its family, is from Generation 3, but 2 out of the 3 members of this family do indeed come from Generation 4. Roserade definitely fits this bill of being a part of that feminine grass line, so overall I definitely think it deserves it because it is a fantastic Pokemon. Moving along though, we have the fossil Pokemon next, and at the number 3 spot for these guys, we have none other than the Galar fossils. Now I know these guys are pretty ugly on the surface, but they're also the poster child of how an ugly looking design doesn't necessarily mean a bad design, because they have one of the most creative and inventive inspirations of any Pokemon ever, not just fossil Pokemon, and so for that reason, they get the number 3 spot here. At the number 2 spot, I have Cranidos and Shieldon, and I absolutely believe that these guys are some of the most solid fossil Pokemon we have ever had. Their evolutions are also really great as well, and overall they are just fantastic Pokemon. At the number 1 spot though, I have got to give it to Amara and Tyrant because not only do they have absolutely fantastic designs, they also have pretty cool inspirations and pretty cool typings as well, with Tyrant being part Dragon type, so overall in my opinion the Kalos fossils are easily the best ones we have ever had. Next up are the Pseudo-legendaries, and the Pseudo-legendaries was probably the hardest category for me to pick a top 3 from, because genuinely nearly all of them deserved to be here in my opinion, but nevertheless I did have to pick a top 3, and at the number 3 spot, I have Tyranitar. There's really nothing else to say here other than the fact that Tyranitar is absolutely amazing, and it's an unbelievably iconic and awesome Pokemon, and frankly deserves to be even higher on this list, which is what made this category so difficult. At number 2 though, we have Garchomp, and I really don't think anyone is going to argue with Garchomp being on this list unless they think it should be number 1, because frankly, it does deserve to be there as well. That is how unbelievably hard it was to pick a top 3 for the Pseudo-legendaries. But Garchomp itself is unbelievably amazing and cool, and ever since it was introduced in Generation 4, it has quickly become one of the most iconic and popular Pokemon ever, so it easily deserves this number 2 spot. And at the number 1 pick, which is another more opinionated one I might add, we have Goodra. Now Goodra for me is not only my favorite pseudo-legendary Pokemon, but is also one of my favorite Pokemon ever. I think it has an unbelievably awesome design, it is very lovable yet very, very strong at the same time, and overall is just a fantastic Pokemon, which is why it gets the top spot in my opinion as the best pseudo-legendary. Now we are going to be moving into legendary Pokemon, starting with the legendary trios, and at the number 3 spot in this category we have the Regis. Now the Regis make the list not only because they are really cool Pokemon, but the thing that really gets them over the hump is the fact that they have by far the most convoluted and complicated method of obtaining them of not only any legendary Pokemon, but any Pokemon in general, which is honestly absolutely fantastic because it's how legendary Pokemon should have to be obtained. They honestly set the standard in terms of how legendary Pokemon should operate in the Pokemon games, and for that reason, they get the number 3 spot. Next up at number 2, we actually have the Swords of Justice. Being a part of Generation 5, the Swords of Justice don't really get as much love as some of the other legendary trios do, but I believe they are really cool. Each one of their designs is honestly awesome. They have a really cool theme of being based around the Three Musketeers, and honestly, they also have really cool typings. So overall, I think this is a fantastic trio of legendary Pokemon, and they certainly deserve that number 2 spot. And the number 1 pick in this category is a pick that I think a lot of people can agree with, and that would be the legendary beasts, Entei, Suicune, and Raikou. Now, everything about these guys is honestly just awesome, fantastic, iconic, amazing, whatever you want to call it, everything about the legendary beasts is just absolutely phenomenal. From their designs, which are all absolutely fantastic, to their origins and lore within the Pokemon world, to the method of obtaining them, which is just as challenging as almost anything else, they really have everything going for them in terms of just being amazing Pokemon and amazing legendary Pokemon at that, and so for that reason, they get the number 1 spot here. Now we move on to the box art legendaries, and coming in at the 3rd spot here, we have Solgaleo and Lunala. Now this might seem like a surprising pick to some of you, but Solgaleo and Lunala truly are really well designed Pokemon. I believe Solgaleo just has a fantastically cool design that has a lot of backstory going for it as well, and the same goes for Lunala too. I just really appreciate how not only both of these Pokemon look really cool from the surface, but also have a lot of depth going for them in terms of their background and inspirations that ultimately led them to being the Pokemon that they are today. They are really well researched Pokemon designs, and for that reason, they get the 3rd spot here. In at number 2, we have Lugia and Ho-Oh, and you honestly can't get legendary Pokemon that are more classic than these two. And not only are they unbelievably classic Pokemon, they are also unbelievably amazing Pokemon because their designs are really awesome, their lore and presence within their respective games is also fantastic, they are truly difficult to catch, which once again makes them true examples of what legendary Pokemon should be, and overall they are just fantastic from every angle, which is why they sit here at number 2. And taking the top spot in this category, we have none other than Xerneas and Yveltal. Now, Xerneas and Yveltal take the top spot in this category for me, simply because their designs are absolutely god tier in terms of how well they are put together. They have unbelievably amazing and interesting design origins. The designs themselves are obviously really well thought out, and you can tell that a lot of time was put into them to make them look visually as amazing and as high quality as they possibly could, and Game Freak certainly pulled it off here because both Xerneas and Yveltal are fantastic looking Pokemon, not just legendary Pokemon, and for those reasons, they easily get the top spot for the box art legendaries. Next up, we have the 3rd box art legendary that appears on many of the upgraded versions of games like Emerald, Platinum, etc. And the first one in this category at the number 3 spot is Necrozma. Now, just like Solgaleo and Lunala in the other category, this might be kind of surprising, but at least in my opinion, I think Necrozma is really cool looking. It has a really cool design. Overall, its premise is really interesting, and for all of those reasons, I think it deserved to be on this list. At number 2, we have Kyurem, and Kyurem is just freaking awesome in my opinion. Not only does it have those really cool 2 forms that we see in Black 2 and White 2, but on its own it's just really cool as well. Its Ice Dragon type is awesome, the lore that it shares with Reshiram and Zekrom is also really interesting, so I definitely believe it deserves this number 2 spot. And at the number 1 spot in this category, we have Giratina, and I really don't think it could have been anyone else to lead this category. Giratina is just really cool. It's the mascot of a game that is easily one of the best in the entire franchise, and it's also got a lot of really cool things going for it with its additional origin form. It has got the entire Distortion world in Platinum that is dedicated to it as well, so overall I think it is easily the best of the 3rd box art legendaries. Alright, so that is pretty much all of the categories we have to go over in terms of what most generations share. However, I do also know that there are a bunch of Pokemon from every single generation that don't necessarily fit into these categories that are also really good and deserve to be considered for this type of thing. And that is why I am going to do one more category that will consist of the fan favorite / super iconic / super popular Pokemon that come from every generation. Basically what I did is look at every generation of Pokemon and count up the total number of Pokemon from every generation that can be considered at the very least really popular and universally loved, but also in many cases are also iconic and are fan favorites as well. In this category, I will also only be considering Pokemon that were not a part of any of the other categories, just because I want to give each individual Pokemon a chance to contribute to their overall generation and not allow one Pokemon to contribute more than anyone else. Finally, the rankings for this category are determined by the total number of Pokemon that each generation has in this category, with the first place having the most obviously, and then the third place having the third most of all the generations overall. And with that being said, coming in at number 3 on the list would surprisingly be Alola with 11 total Pokemon like this to its name. These Pokemon include Mimikyu, Rockruff, Lycanroc, Cosmog, Marshadow, Magearna, Meltan, Type Null, Silvally, Salandit, and Poipole. Now, I did do my best to have as wide of a consideration as possible in terms of what the entire Pokemon community believes are a super popular or super iconic Pokemon, but I did have to put this list together myself at the same time if you slightly disagree, so just keep that in mind. Next up on the list though is Sinnoh, also with 11 Pokemon, and those Pokemon would consist of Manaphy, Darkrai, Shaman, Arceus, Munchlax, Spiritomb, Lucario, Luxray, Leafeon and Glaceon because they're evolutions, and Rotom. Now, the reason why Sinnoh is at number 2 on this list despite being tied with Alola at number 3 is because personally, I feel like the iconic Pokemon that Sinnoh has to its name are just a little more iconic than the Pokemon that Alola has to its name, with Lucario and Rotom being prime examples of that. Finally though, at the number 1 spot in this category, we of course have none other than the Kanto region with 16 total super popular and iconic Pokemon, with those Pokemon consisting of Mewtwo, Mew, Snorlax, Eevee, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, cause they're evolutions once again, Cubone, Arcanine, Jigglypuff, Ditto, Lapras, Magikarp, Gyarados, Gengar, and Alakazam. Now personally, I do feel like this is a pretty definitive list of Pokemon that are not only universally loved, but are also super iconic in many cases, and it's understandable that Kanto would win this category because obviously it is the first generation with the most recognizable Pokemon. That is officially the last category though, so with that said, it is finally time to tally up the points and find out which generation, according to our little game here, has the best Pokemon. In third place, we have Generation 2 and Johto, which tallied up 14 total points. In second place, we have Generation 4 and Sinnoh, which tallied up 15 total points. And at the number 1 spot, the winner of the generation with the best Pokemon, according to our little game, is the 6th generation and the Kalos region, coming in with 16 total points. Now, admittedly, I will say that these rankings do reflect my personal tastes a little bit, but nevertheless, I do still think it was really fun to kind of play this game and see if those opinions actually do hold up. If you guys enjoyed the video though, be sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments below what you think of these rankings. If you don't think they're exactly right, definitely leave your personal rankings in the comments below as well, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more Pokemon content all the time. You can also support the channel if you would like and the production of videos just like this by listening to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify and checking out my Pokemon Cardinal project if you haven't yet either. Both of those help immensely and are insanely appreciated. With all of that being said though, I will be back on Thursday for another video and to talk with you guys about the reveal of the brand new mythical Pokemon. I'm really excited for it. So with that being said, make sure you hit that notification bell so you can know as soon as that video goes live, and until then, as always, I hope you know I love you guys very much, and I will smell you guys later.